All right, we're back again for my second interview today. I have a very special guest. It's Michelle Rosado. She has her own boxing promotion company called Raging Babe. So I'm waiting for her to get on, and we'll be able to get started. It looks like Michelle's on. Hey, Michelle, just hit the request. You should be able to see it. Okay, cool. I see it, and then I'm about to get her on. Hey,
Hi.
what's up? What's going on?
Hanging out.
I bet.
Not
I know
much
it's.
of anything.
I know. I'm actually jealous that you're in Arizona. I'm actually getting tired of this cold, cold slash
Yeah,
early spring.
a part of me wishes I would have stayed in Philly though. I could have like hung out with like some friends and instead I came out here and I'm kind of by myself. So,
It sucks. It's a bummer.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw. I've been keeping in touch with people on the Philly special card. So the fighters are really loyal. So like I was even asking them. So you're on it still, and they're like, yeah, they're men of their words. So it's actually cool that they are all on it still. Yeah.
They've all been very understanding, very supportive, very loyal. However, there's nowhere else for them to fight anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So they act, let's put this into perspective. It's not like they can get a fight in April, or I really don't think May is going to happen either in a lot of places. So I'm just grateful that I had a backup date on reserve and that these fighters have a backup plan
Right.
and they have a date, because most fighters in boxing right now, especially in Philly, they don't have a date. They don't know when they're going to fight again. So thank God I had June 19th, like on tuck already. So when all this happened, I was like, boom, we got a date. And I think that like gave them a sense of relief and stress and, all these different things that are going on. I think they just appreciated it.
Right. Okay. So I'm gonna do an intro. So I usually like to say how I met the person. So I first met Michelle. We were at a Puerto Rican festival in Bristol. They were doing an appearance with Jeremy and Joseph Adorno.
That's when we first met, really?
I know. Yeah, it's crazy. So I used to do stuff
Wow.
with Brittany. Yeah. So I never got a chance to meet you until
Uh-huh.
you were promoting the top rank fight, and then we. Yeah, but then I went up winning the free tickets, which was cool. And then we talked more at the Carl Frampton meet and greet at the Commodore Barry.
The
Yeah.
Irish place. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then we stayed in touch. And then of course I worked on the Pelts 50th card with you and all. Yep. And then we've been in touch ever since. So.
Damn. Okay, it felt like we met longer ago.
I know,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start with basic questions before we start getting into the real questions. So what part of Philly were you from, or are you from the Bristol area, right?
Well, yeah, I was born and raised in the borough. And then right after high school, I went to Pittsburgh for a couple years for college. And then I transferred to Temple and lived in Philly ever since then. So I guess that was around 99,
Oh, okay.
2000 or something like that. So yeah, grew up like right on the outskirts and then lived there since like 99, 2000.
Okay. And then so you did go to Temple, the same as me. So I graduated. So my major was sport management. Were you a sport management major, or did you major in something else?
No, I majored in mechanical engineering technology.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In Pittsburgh, I was in mechanical engineering. Temple didn't have it, but they had mechanical engineering technology, which is pretty much the same. Actually, it was a little bit easier, thank God. So that's what I went to school for.
Okay. And then how did you get into boxing? Like, when did you develop the passion and then also started working in it? Yeah.
Well, I always had the passion, just like growing up, watching boxing with my dad, watching all the big fights, little fights, Friday night fights, like everything. And when I left Philly for Phoenix, which was in '05, I moved out to Phoenix for my career, which was mechanical engineering. And construction was booming out here. There was a lot of business in Phoenix, and it made more sense for me to move out here for my career growth. And I came out here, and after a while, I was like missing local boxing. Like, where are the gyms? Where are the shows? Like, I was just watching everything on TV, and that was it. And then De La Hoya was doing some Friday night fights out here in Tucson, and Top Rank, sporadically, they would do shows in Phoenix. And then everything shut down. because there were some really tough immigration laws that were being passed at the time. And there was a lot of corruption within the commission. There was just a lot of junk going on. And De La Hoya, Aram, they all kind of pulled out of Arizona. They're like, we're not going to do any more shows out there until they get that immigration thing figured out. And with all the corruption that was going on in the commission, and everybody pulled out, shut their doors. And I was like, wow. So I actually met a fighter, and he was an amateur, and he was looking to turn pro. And we met through a mutual friend, ironically enough. And I knew nothing about the business or about Arizona boxing. And I was like, well, I could help you. I mean, I can make some phone calls. I'm like business savvy. I'm sure I could figure some stuff out. And I emailed the commission. I made some phone calls. One thing led to another. I met the matchmaker, and he started kind of telling me what was going on out here and how hard it was to find fights and to do shows. And like a year or two later, I was like, well, I'll do a show. Like, I was so naive. Like, I had no idea what it entailed. I had no clue what the hell I was doing. But I'm like, dude, I could apply my engineering skills and my brains and my smarts, and I'm sure I could put together a show. Like, it can't be that hard. Especially because I'm like super organized and analytical. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
It was so hard. I decided to do a show. This matchmaker guy, his name is Mike Sanchez. He helped me put together a budget, what it would entail, what kind of insurances I would need. I mean, he really held my hand. Until this day, I give him a lot of credit. And the first show was good. We had good fights. We sold out the building, which was a small building. Yeah, it was kind of like the 2300 Arena. It was like that kind of small. But everybody made a big deal about it. Like, who's this girl? Where'd she come from? She's not from here. She's not Mexican. Everybody just wanted to know who I was and what I was doing. And I thought it was fun. I was like, it felt like a big party.
That's cool,
like,
yeah.
I felt like I just did a big party. I didn't lose money, which is very rare on a local club level, especially your first show. I had no sponsors. I didn't know how to get sponsors until like my second show. But that's where it all started. It was in Phoenix.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you basically touched on that question with your first show. So that's actually cool. It's in Phoenix. What were your nerves like? Like, were you able to keep it together, or would you have like a lot of?
I had my sister, who was a big support system. I had this guy, Big Mike, that helped me with a lot of the marketing and the graphics, and I had a really close, tight team. Like, they would all work with me until like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And we all had work the next day. So I had like some soldiers, man. And like when one thing would go wrong, they would help clean it up, or they would help me put the fire out, or, like, they got me through it.
That's cool. That's awesome. And then did you originally know Russell
Nope.
prior? Okay. So was that like when you helped out during like a first show? So I want you to talk about your relationship with Russell Pelton. Like, how did you wind up coming back to Philly to start doing some shows here?
So I started doing brunches for women in boxing, and it kind of became like a big thing, and Mayweather started sponsoring it, and I went to work with them for a couple years. And
nice.
Then I met Brittany Rogers. I met Bam, like on Facebook, and I'm like, yo, we gotta get to know each other. Like, I love what you're doing in Philly. I'm trying to do that in Phoenix, like, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, you should talk to Russell. And I was kind of like, who?
Yeah.
Because remember, when you're a fan, you don't care who the promoter is. Like, you just want to see a good fight. When you're just a fan, you don't care whose name is on the banner. So like, I was like, who? Russell? Like, then I looked him up and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That's Russell? Like, that's who is doing all these Philly shows and Philly like, oh shit, like, that's Russell. So she introduced us, and I formally met him at Rosado Golovkin in New York. I was with Gabe. I've worked with Gabe for years. And so that's where I formally met Russell, and we hit it off. And then we met again a few months later when Gabe fought Jay Leon Love. And again, we really hit it off. But, we weren't really working together. We were just kind of talking about the business and promoting and stuff. And then a few months later, Gabe fought Kid Chocolate in Atlantic City. And that's where I really got to spend a lot of time with Russell in Atlantic City. And a few months later, I started interning for him and literally, like starting at the bottom and kind of starting over, like
Right.
learning how to treat this like a business, not a hobby.
Right. Exactly.
How to cross the T's, dot the I's, how to make fights. Like I was carrying the spit bucket. Like I was in training, doing my apprenticeship. And thank God for him and for that, because I wouldn't have still been in the game today if I wouldn't have gotten mentorship. Like it's so important. So many promoters come into the business and they think they know it all.
Right,
they think they're going to sell every chair in the building and make money. I got news for you. You could sell every seat in that building and you're not going to make a profit.
Right.
So there's more to it than just that. And I see a lot of promoters come and go, like a year, 2, 3 later. Exactly. So I always say, like, get yourself a mentor. Throw your ego in the trash.
Right.
Swallow your pride. If you talk to some of the best trainers in the world, they'll tell you that they came up under somebody. They'll tell you they had a mentor. So it's no different than a promoter. Like you have to learn from somebody.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I'm actually glad that you pointed that out. Yeah, the mentorship in boxing is very important, and you couldn't have found a better person to show you.
Man, I got lucky.
Boxing. You really did. You truly did.
I got lucky.
Yeah. Okay, and then this was my favorite question because I'm actually really excited to ask you this, and I even gave you this as like a sneak preview. So I see a lot of my friends logging on and stuff. So a lot of people think, being a promoter is nothing. The fight's going to sell itself. So I want you to prove everybody that I'm not a liar and that I'm not full of shit. So I want you to talk about the grind, about selling the tickets, the marketing, the boxing contracts, just trying to get everybody on the card and just trying to go and make money on this. Yeah.
Man, well, there's like a million moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
If you looked at my budget sheet, I have about 150 items on there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Things people don't even think about, but the insurances, the liabilities, the fighter's medical insurance, the venue, and then everything else, the gloves, the fights, the travel, the food, the medicals, the booking fees. I mean, I could just go on and on, down to the ring girls, down to the little things that you don't even think about. Like all that stuff has to be in order, organized, ready to go by fight night. The marketing plan, the advertising. How do you get people to want to buy a ticket to go see a kid from North Philly that's not fighting for a belt,
right?
That doesn't have a big name, that there's no TV involved? How do you convince a boxing fan to spend $100, $50 to go to these fights to support local fighters, especially when boxing is a little watered down right now? Like you got the haves and then the have-nots. So like, all these guys at the top. Well, what about those guys like in the middle, like those middle-class fighters and the guys who are just starting out, they're down here? How do you get people excited about that? Like, there's a lot of thought that goes into that, a lot of promo, a lot of advertising. Where do you spend your money? Where are you going to get a return on investment? The other big piece is having good partners and sponsors. If you don't have partners and sponsors, I don't know how the heck you're going to make money on a small show.
Right.
The numbers just don't add up. I mean, unless you just do junkie fights, unless you just do like paid fights, which that's happening a lot right now in Philly. I have to say that there's promoters doing ticket deals with fighters. A lot of people are buying fights. And so that's how they're able to stay afloat. And I'm not knocking anybody's hustle.
Right, exactly.
But I don't do ticket deals. Like, I have to sell tickets. That's how I pay the fighters. That's how I do, make money and I can't give out tickets. I can't give away the building. I can't give away the house. So when other people in Philly do that, or when other promoters come into Philly and they do that, it hurts the people like me.
Oh, it hurts, yeah.
It really messes up the market because I'm selling my tickets. I think my last show for Russell's anniversary, I think we had like 9 or 10 comps.
Yeah. Which is,
you know what I mean?
Which is like unheard of, yeah.
Yeah, it's my business. Like, I'm not going to go to one of my friends or somebody I know and go to their business and ask them for free stuff. Like, I have a friend, she works at the post office. I don't go to the post office like, yo, Sin, let me get some free stamps. Ship this for free for me. I have a friend who works like in a retail store. I'm not like, hey, give me some free clothes because you work in the clothing store. So you can't come to me and ask me for free tickets because it's my business. It's what I sell. It's what I do. So like, and my friends and family know. And I say it all the time. Like, if your own friends and family won't buy a ticket to your show, then who will?
Right.
So
I like it. Yeah. And I absolutely love whenever you keep it 100 on your like Instagram stories and also on Facebook, like you truly are a believer in just the grind and making money, and you're not trying to hand out these free tickets to guys or girls. Yeah, it's just like
there's too many lazy promoters,
right.
And I take a lot of the old school ways that Russell did, and then I mix in my new school stuff, and it seems to work for me. But promoters got a little lazy, especially when the casinos start like shelling out money. You know, they're like, oh, I don't have to promote. Yeah, you still do. You know, and it means something to the fighters. And I think if you spoke to the fighters, I think that they would admit that. Like, I stay on top of them. I give them what they need, whether it's posters, videos, like promote yourself, self-promote, make a name for yourself. I'm going to help you do that if you're on one of my cards. And I think that they feel the difference when they fight for me. And I think that's why a lot of them have been loyal to me. No contract, no nothing. You know, I think they like my style. Not everybody, but most of them.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about a couple shows too. So I know that this is the second year that you're doing the Philly Special. So I kind of took a break for boxing, as like crazy as that sounds, because like I was working with soccer and basketball. So like I haven't really been to a boxing event up until like last year. I went to like 7-8 shows, but like I haven't been to a boxing event since Joey versus Amir Mansour back in 2015.
Damn! I worked that show. Yeah.
I know. It's like big as a boxing fan as I am. Like it's just crazy. So how did the idea come with Philly Special? And then what was all the planning of it, and how hard was it to actually get guys to fight on that card, Philly versus Philly?
So when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, you know, the big play was the Philly Special.
Philly Special, right.
And a lot of people in Philly kind of ran with it. Like restaurants and sandwich shops, they all got the Philly Special. You know, it's like the meal of the day, the sandwich of the, you know, everybody's got like their own Philly Special now. And when it came time to naming our first show last year with Christian Cardo, that was headlining. Sonny Conto was making his pro debut. We had some other good Philly guys on the card. I'm like, the Philly Special. These are special guys from Philly. And so we named it the Philly Special. And it had a good ring to it. And I thought it was just going to be like a one-time thing. That was it. Because then we didn't do a show again until Russell's 50th anniversary show, which was called Pelts 50. So after that show, I thought about branding, marketing, consistency. Like, what do I want to be known for? What do I want people to hear and know that that's a Raging Babe show?
Okay.
Without using Raging Babe, you know, it's not about me. And I remember talking to Russell, and I'm like, you know, I want the next card to be special. I want special guys on the card. And he was like, Philly Special. And I'm like, that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Cool.
That's going to be the name of my series forever, you know, and I want to feature young, talented, up-and-coming Philly guys, you know, in good developmental fights. And so it makes perfect sense. We're just going to call it it's going to be the Philly Special from here on out. Yeah. Unless it's like, you know, something like, you know, like a Pelts anniversary show or something like that. But I think it has a good ring to it. I think people are feeling it. Like, people are saying like, yo, you going to the Philly Special? Oh, the Philly Special's next month. Oh, you see the Philly Special. It's got this cool ring to it. Right. You know what I mean? So, and I think that's what my shows are going to be known for. It's going to be like, yo, when's the next Philly Special?
Yeah.
And so I think I got something really good with that. I want to, I can't trademark it because of the Eagles and
Right, of
like
course.
everything
Yeah.
else. So until they tell me I can't use it,
Right, it's gonna be called that.
I'm going to keep using it.
Yeah.
And that's the goal, is putting these Philly special guys in good developmental competitive fights. And if you don't want to be in a developmental good fight, that's cool. You don't ever have to fight for me. Like,
Right.
I understand everybody has their own path and their own theory and their own plan on how they're going to develop as a pro, but I'm not going to put on a show with like 8 first-round knockouts.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I'm not doing that. I'm not going to bring in, a cab driver from Mexico. I'm not going to go hunting for people in Arkansas,
Right.
So that you can knock them over with a jab in 30 seconds. So that's not what I want to do. And there have been some Philly fighters that I've wanted on my card. And unfortunately, they're just looking for something different.
Yeah, for just something
And
different.
a lot of people are scared of Russell. Oh, Russell puts everybody in tough
Right.
fights and he gets everybody beat. And that's not true. Like, he doesn't do that on purpose. But we do try to make good competitive fights.
Right, yeah.
And developmental fights, meaning we're not going to ask you to fight King Kong but in your second fight, but we're going to ask you to learn a little something. Let it be developmental.
Right.
Learn a little something each fight, a little until you go. And then when it's time to fight, a big step up, you're ready. Instead, you're fighting bum after bum after bum after bum.
Right, exactly.
And then you
That's the
step
truth.
up and you fold like a napkin because
Right.
you had no developmental fights at all.
Right.
So, that's what I want to do. And that's something, even when Russell is gone and retired or whatever,
Right.
like, I want to keep that legacy going where, let's develop good Philly fighters. Let's develop world champions.
Right.
That's what I want to do.
Right. And I'm not saying this because we have a friendship, but anyone that doesn't want to fight on your card is absolutely crazy because like every single card that I've been with you on, because I've been on like 2 or 3 cards with you now, or been as a fan, they've been phenomenal fights. So that's like the type of competition that you should want, just to better yourself instead of just fighting guys that you could just knock you out in 2 or 3 punches. Like what's that going to do to you besides adding another W?
Right. And I'm not saying like it never happens.
Right.
But we're not going to do like a full card like that.
Right. Exactly.
And getting the Philly fights to happen is not easy. Like making Stevie Ortiz and Damon Allen.
Right.
That's a
hell of fight
special,
coming up, yeah.
special fight. And back in the day, Philly versus Philly was normal. Okay. It's what made Philly
Right.
the fight town that it is. But then over the past decade, Philly fighters like, man, that's my brother. I ain't fighting him. We ain't got to fight each other. It's got to be worth it. And you know what? They're right. It's got to be significant. It's got to be worth it. What's the money? Is there a belt? Is there television? Like, I get it. But let me tell you, every Philly versus Philly fight that happens, one guy or both, they end up taking off with their careers.
Right, exactly.
So a lot of people in the boxing industry, when they know there's a Philly versus Philly fight, they come to Philly for it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
They watch it. They want to know. I can't even tell you. I'm talking people from Golden Boy, Top Rank, Matchroom. People are waiting for the Stevie Ortiz, Damon Allen fight.
Oh, yeah.
The winner's probably going to get ranked. If it's a terrific fight, it doesn't even matter who loses or who wins. They're both going to move on to a bigger fight, bigger payday. This is the fight that they both needed because they've both been kind of floundering the past year or so.
Right.
Like, it's a significant fight. It's meaningful. They're both getting paid decent. There's a belt on the line. There's a state championship. So hopefully I can make more fights like that. And plus, it gets the city excited. Everybody in the gyms, they're buzzing about it. They're all 50-50 on who's going to win. It's like the talk of the town.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. So, I hope that I can continue making fights like that. And they're not easy and they're not cheap. But those are the type of fights that need to happen in Philly.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then I wanted to touch on this one. I felt like you made a great decision postponing to June, but I just wanted to get into how hard that was
Man.
to make that decision before the government or the mayor shut you down before. So could you just see how you came to that
Yeah.
decision for what it was safe?
Well, I always think about the fighters first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kept replaying in my head. What do I do? How are they going to react? What does this mean for them? Like, they're all looking forward to fight. They all need a check. They've all been training. Like, at that point, it really wasn't even about me. Do they feel safe? Would they
Right.
want me to postpone it? And I actually spoke to a couple of people in the industry. And at the time, the Philly mayor had said no gatherings over 1,000 people.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, should I make it 1,000? Now, mind you, I would have lost money, but I'm like, well, should I just scale it down to 1,000? They need to fight. And then I kind of saw what was going on in the country, like the NBA shut down, the NHL shut down,
Right.
Top Rank was like shutting down their and I'm like, whoa. So I'm like, you know what? I got to do the right thing here. And the right thing is for me to take a loss now rather than a bigger one later.
Right.
Because I did take a loss. I know everybody thinks promoters make $1 million, but
Right.
I'm definitely going to take an L on the postponement and everything. And I spoke to all the fighters, and they were all like supportive and in agreement, and they were like, it's the best thing to do. I told them I had a backup date, thank God, which made them, I think, feel a little bit better. But I wanted to pull the trigger before I got shut down. I mean, a couple weeks ago in Bethlehem, you know, King's Promotions got shut down the day of their fight.
Yeah, it was like literally probably 8 hours before they were going to fight, because I saw that.
Yeah, I would have like, bro, I would have strangled myself.
Yeah,
I would have strangled
because they
myself.
did weigh-ins and stuff, and
They did weigh-ins. Everybody flew in. Everybody had a hotel room, and I thought, oh my God, thank God I postponed it.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been so much worse than it already is. So, but you know what? I've had a ton of support, not only from the fighters, but like even my partners and my sponsors. Like those 2 billboards that I paid a pretty penny for.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a really good relationship with Clear Channel. And the guy hit me up and was like, listen, we're going to give you those 2 billboards for June again.
Oh,
Don't worry. And I'm like,
that's awesome
no.
that they did that. Wow.
All of my sponsors, hey, however we could help, we understand if we can contribute more. You know, everybody that was working, my publicist, my graphic designer, my staff, everybody's like, I'm on board. I got you. I'm with you. Like, I can't. So now I'm like, yo, I got to go bigger. I got to go harder.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like everybody's got my back. And that means like everything. Like I'm not in it alone.
Yeah.
So
that's actually really nice that that they were all being great with giving you the free billboards, because I'm also working in business marketing too, and I see how slow it is for the sales reps. So that's really generous that they were able to do that for you. That's a lot. You know,
it just proves to me that when you treat people good and you do the right thing, it will be reciprocated. You know, and I've always had these strong partnerships with my media guys, my advertising people, my marketing people. And at a time like this, now it's time for them to take care of me, which is nice, you know, because I was always buying advertising and being loyal to them. And, you know, even there was times where I didn't really need certain things, but I would throw them, you know, a little bit of something and throw them a bone. So I'm like, man, that came back as a blessing tenfold. Especially with the billboards, like, you know how much they cost?
Yeah. I sure know. Yeah, it's not cheap for sure. It's not cheap. Yeah. So my next question. So the Pelt's 50th anniversary card. Now, how awesome was that to give thanks to a great matchmaker here, Hall of Famer Russell Peltz. So what were like the emotions? Like I can imagine the stress of creating it, and also probably at the end when it was all over, you were able to
in the beginning and even leading up to the fight, it was one of the most stressful shows because when we talked about doing his 50th anniversary, he wanted it to be a certain way. Okay. And I had to let him have that because it was his 50th anniversary show. But, like, not one fighter that, like, I really wanted on the show made it on the show.
Oh, wow.
He wanted to make his type of fights his way, his style. He
Right.
didn't care about ticket sellers. He didn't care about popularity.
Wow.
And he said to me, anybody could promote Ali Frazier. You're going to show me that you're a promoter, and you're going to promote Victor Padilla against this guy from New York. You're going to promote Chris Burgos versus whoever. You're
Yeah.
like, you know, I was like, how the hell am I going to, we had no name. We had no
Right.
popularity.
Yeah.
We had no big draw. I love Victor Padilla. I was happy he was on the show, but nobody really knows him yet. Like, nobody really knows how good he is, where he's from. They don't know his story.
Right.
And I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to, like, and there was other promoters in Philly that hit me up like, are you crazy? Like, how are you going to get people to go to that show? And that's when he made me be a promoter.
Right.
Like, he was like, I'm going to make the fights that I want to make. They're all going to be good fights, competitive fights, 4-rounders, 6-rounders. And, we didn't sell out, but we came really close.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. That's when I was like, yo, I could really do this. And we fought a lot leading up to the fight. I kept throwing it in his face. Like, you didn't let me put this guy on the card. You didn't let me put that guy on the card. Look at, what are we going to do? And I'm like freaking out. And he would just be like, whatever. But it all worked out. And it was like the most special event. Yeah. I cried. There was happy tears and lots of hugs. And it was an honor, 50 years in the business. Somebody who has taken me under his wing, who has taught me like almost everything I know, who's like passing me the torch. He's the greatest that has ever done it in Philly. Whether you like him or not,
he's the best.
You have to respect that, because before him, it was probably like Herman Taylor in like the 40s, and the amount of champions that he's developed, the amount of guys he has in the Hall of Fame, just what he's done for Philly, period. I'm like, yo, he's a legend. And so for me to be able to like take that torch, like that's everything. It's an honor. It's a privilege. It's a blessing.
For sure, yeah. And that was my first card that I ever worked with you too. So that was really fun. I really enjoyed it. And it was also cool like to soak it in, because I worked with Bam like for like 2 or 3 fights before. So it was actually cool to work with you, and I'm very happy to be on the Philly special card too, to work with you too. Like, I'm really excited for that, definitely.
Yeah, and we have like a really good crew, and I get so many, like, for real, I get emails and messages, like people wanting to intern. Oh, I'll work for you for free. Oh, let me follow you around. Da, 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 da. And I'm like really picky, because everybody says that, but they don't really mean it. Like, sometimes they just want to pick your brain and take it and leave, or like pass information. And so I'm like really picky. Like, everybody who has worked with me has been with me for a really long time. And, you kept reaching out to me. Here's a quick funny story is when I got into all this, I went and I worked for things like Good People, not conniving and everything else. And so like I brought you on, and I brought on Caesar Gonzalez. Yeah. And he's been a big help. He helps us with the medicals and the licensing and on fight night. So I have like a really good oiled machine right now. Yeah. And my goal is everybody that does work with me, I want them to be leaders. Like, I want them to take their spot and own it and run with it. Like, don't come to me unless there's a fire. Like, think like me, act like me, handle it, man it, boss up. I don't even need to see you on fight night unless there's a fire. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody stole the glove bag, let me know. But like, other than that, like, I feel so confident in everybody that works with me, that we're so tight. Like, I just trust everybody, even to the guy who works my back door, which that's always a big problem, because people like to sneak people in for free. They like to give free. Yo, my guy at the back door, he's like militant. Yeah. You ain't doing that with him. So
I saw for firsthand that like people were even trying to come upstairs too, and they're like, yo, you can't.
Yeah. So I want to continue running a tight ship. People say, oh, Raging Babe, she's stingy. She got too many rules. She's this, she's strict. And I'm like, yep, it's my business.
Right. Yeah, of course.
So I want to train my people to be like, just like me, and run the show. Like, dude, you know how great it'll feel one day to actually put people on salary?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Like,
yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
that's where I want to get. I want to get to that point where like I have a full-time team. So we're getting there.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. All right, so I just want to touch on two more things, and then I'm gonna let you go.
Okay.
First one is, so you touched on it a little bit, how like you started your relationship with Top Rank out in Phoenix. So like I noticed that like when there's fights here at like Temple and like Atlantic City, do they just know you from previously, or do they contact you because you're one of the promoters here in Philadelphia to help work the fights?
Well, here's a quick funny story is
Okay.
when I got into all this, I went and I worked for Mayweather for about a good year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of interning, project managing and stuff like that.
Okay.
And doing the brunches. I then had a really popular podcast with my friend Giandra out of Inglewood. It was called The Morning Punchin' Show.
Okay.
And it was every Monday morning. And we did really good numbers. We were really popular.
Yeah.
I think we're breaking up. Okay. So anyway,
Okay.
I got a lot of followers because of the show. And I noticed a lot of the Top Rank guys started following me. I didn't really know them.
Right.
So once I got with Russell, we did the Verdejo card in Philly, and Jesse Hart was on the card.
Right.
It was a Top Rank card. It was like solo book sale. And that's, you know, Russell was running the show as the promoter for Top Rank. And that's when I met all of them. And I just really got to know them, and we got cool together. And then they came to Philly again with like another card. And because Russell was involved, I was involved. So really, Russell opened up that door. And then I would say in 2018, when they came with DeWaco and Jennings,
Yes.
that's really when Russell kind of let me take over the Top Rank shows.
Okay.
And I just started running them from top to bottom. And he was like overseeing everything and supervising and just like doing the ticketing.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so now when Top Rank like needs anything or they want to do a show, whether it's in Arizona or Phoenix, like they hit me up.
Okay.
So it's really cool because my relationship grew with them, but Russell definitely opened the door. Definitely.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's like really cool to know how that relationship started with Top Rank. Okay, so my last thing, of course, the Philly Special June 19th. So I just want you to tell everybody how special that this card is from top to bottom. Gotta come to it. It's a can't miss. And then also maybe fighters that are looking on here, like how one day would they be able to get on this card and maybe fight for you one day too?
That's a good one. How you get on one of our cards, you got to want to fight. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying fight King Kong in your second fight, but I don't have the luxury as a small middle class promoter of like flying in every opponent on the card. It doesn't make financial sense. Now there are other promoters who do that and let them buy fights and everything else, but you know, I don't want that to be my motto. I don't want that to become my business model either.
Right.
So, you know, you got to want to fight a little bit. You got to want to be in like developmental fights. You know, I ask every fighter, like, do you want to sell tickets? I don't like make it mandatory. Like, you got to sell me 200 tickets. If you want to sell tickets, great. That's a plus. You get a commission, but it's more important that you actually want to fight.
Okay.
The second thing is you have to be reliable. Like, I only want to work with fighters that are reliable. What do I mean by that? You have to make weight. You have to show up. You can't pull out of a fight because, you know, you got a little scratch on your wrist.
Right.
Like, I don't want the excuses, the baby mama drama, you know, oh, my life is, you know, you're a fighter.
Right.
I was built tough by Russell. You got to be Philly tough. So I like working with reliable guys.
Okay.
If I know there's a fighter that like never makes weight, you're probably never going to fight on my card because I can't take that risk with you. You know what I mean? Like, what happens if you don't make weight and the fight is off and then, you know, you just ruined my whole show. So I like working with reliable guys that want to fight, guys that want to be busy. And then, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Local Philly guys. The Philly Special, I mean, the main event with Stevie Ortiz and Damon Allen, it gets no better than that right now.
Yeah.
And I'm actually already thinking about like the next show. Like, how the hell do I top that?
Right, I know. It's
Like,
so good.
how do I even follow up to a show like this, right? So I got my wheels are turning. So I mean, that fight is fantastic. The return of Christian Cardo, who hasn't wanted to see him come back, right, since last year.
Yep.
Russell Peltz recently signed Frankie Trader, who's like a veteran, but he's a veteran and he's kind of older, but he took off like a good 4 years to get his shoulder fixed. And he's got a really cool story, and like, he's ready. Like, you know, he's going to fight this one fight and then he wants to break in. Like, he wants to fight top dogs, bigger fights, bigger names, because it's like now or never for him. And it's funny because a lot of the gyms that I go to, they bring up his name now. Like, I've never heard like about Frankie Trader until Russell signed him. And now I'm going to the gyms and everybody talks about this kid.
Talking, man.
Oh my God, he was such a good amateur. He was a good pro. He had shoulder problem. Like, he would have been the shit. He would have been, you know, I'm like, wow, really? Like, you know, I didn't know that. Diane Butt, who trains with Chino, Pakistani fighter from Philadelphia. He works so hard. He's so reliable.
Awesome.
He's been wanting to fight on one of our cards at the arena for a really long time. He's fought at the parks for like 3 or 4. And every time he would see me, Miss Rosado, because he's like so respectful like that.
Nice.
And I hate it.
And
I'm like, please stop calling me Miss. But that's how he was raised. Oh, Miss Rosado, when can I fight on one of your cards? When can I fight on a TV? Like, you know. And so this was the right card. So he finally got on.
That's cool.
Shenard Bunch, who does not love Shenard Bunch.
The best.
That boy was fighting like every 2 weeks before this coronavirus. You know, he was like catching a body every 3 weeks.
He was.
I mean, everybody loves Shenard. He's a real fighter, too. And people don't know, but when he fought Paul Kroll, that was Shenard that wanted that fight. It wasn't us. It wasn't Russell. That was Shenard. Who wants to fight Paul Kroll?
Nobody now. Nobody.
But he wanted that fight. And once we saw him in that fight, that's when we were like, we're signing him.
Yeah.
When he took that loss, the way he took the loss, the way he fought, those are the kind of guys we want to work with. He has a high ceiling. We keep putting him in these good developmental fights. Like, Bunch is going to be good with that one loss. He's
going to
good.
be really good.
And then we've got Tommy Santiago making his pro debut. So his older brother Milton is a fighter. I think he's like 19-0. He was signed with Heyman. But Tommy's making his pro debut before he goes off to college. He's a standout football player at William Tennant. He's got some offers to play football, but he loves boxing. You know, he wants to fight. And who am I missing here? Tamir Smalls. He trains out of Bosie's gym with Boots and those guys. He'll be fighting on the card. I think he's like 3-0.
Okay.
So we got a lot of good stuff. Like, we got a lot of Philly special guys.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great card. And again, I'm not saying this because I know Raging Babe. Like, this is one hell of a card because, like, I feel like I've seen these guys fight 2 or 3 times already, and they're not going to disappoint at all. Plus,
they're not. Listen, a lot of them didn't turn down fights. A lot of them asked to be on this card because, number one, they wanted to fight.
Right.
Like, literally, they want to fight. They want to get better. They want to develop. They want to move up. And they wanted the exposure. Like, they knew what they were getting fighting on one of my cards, like with the publicity, the marketing, the advertising. Like, a lot of them, they like that. They want that. So, you know, it wasn't that hard to match them. Russell's job was kind of easy on this card.
Right.
In a way, like, he didn't really have that hard of a time making fights because they all wanted to fight.
All right.
That doesn't happen often.
Yeah, no. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was a fun interview for sure.
Thank you.
It's not a problem. And I hope everyone enjoyed it too, to learn about the grind of promoting, what it takes to fight on a Raging Babe card in the future too. So I really hope everyone enjoyed it.
Thank you. And look, June 29th, I'm hoping and praying that the world is back to normal, like in May.
Yeah.
And, you know, if something happens where we have to postpone it again, then okay, we'll get through it. but we're in the same boat as everybody else. But I have a really good feeling that June 19th is going to happen.
Yeah.
I stay in contact with all the fighters like every day, if not every other day. They're running, they're jump roping.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing this thing right now on my Twitter and my Instagram called By Any Means. Like, these guys by any means are training. Like, they know they have a June date. They're running, they're doing what they can. You know, they can't spar, they can't do certain things, so they're frustrated. But I'm like, yo, just stay in shape, because a 4-week camp might have to suffice.
Right.
You know, you might not have the luxury of having a 6 to 8 week camp for June.
Right.
But you probably can have a good 4-week camp, but you got to be in shape.
Right.
So I'm just staying on top of them. Like, yo, what'd you do today? Send me video. You know, did you run? Did you jump rope? Are you doing push-ups? Are you, you know, so, and they're getting into it, you know, and they motivate me as much as I motivate them.
That's cool. That's awesome. All right, cool. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll be talking to you at the end of the week too. So,
all right. I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Cool. Thank
bye.
you, Michelle. All right.
See
bye.
ya.
All right, so that was Raging Babe. I really hope everybody enjoyed that with the insight of being a boxing promoter. Also, for June 19th, you do not want to miss it. It's a hell of a card, even though I've had 2 other fighters on the card, and they're saying the same thing too. Like, we're not saying this just to try to hype the fight up. Like, if you don't believe me, go on YouTube, look up these fighters, see what they bring to the ring. It's going to be an unbelievable fight card for all these different fighters that are on the card. So just a scheduling recap. So I'm going to have to text my friend, Will. We're going to have to coordinate another time. I have a work emergency, so I have to get back on my laptop to place some orders. And then, so maybe later tonight around 7, 8 o'clock, I'm going to coordinate with him, or we'll just do it for next week. But for Friday, I'm going to confirm. So we have Victor Padilla coming on at 12 o'clock. Very nice prospect. He's 8-0 with 7 knockouts. And then possibly Steve USS Cunningham, former heavyweight fighter. He's a great guy. We're going to learn about his boxing career, and also him in the Navy as well. So thank you so much for everyone tuning in, and maybe I'll see you tonight or definitely tomorrow at 12. Thank you.